So moving on now, Jessie says, do you have any advice for connecting to spirit guides and angels? I receive angel numbers almost every day, they change often. I tried to connect on the pendulum, but sometimes I get wrong information or confusing messages. I've not yet been able to lucid dream or astral project to meet them. Okay, so I will answer this. Well, yeah, so the thing is with spirit guides, angels, channeling, and I want to kind of, for now, just group these things into the same category for now. So I'm going to group into the same category: spirit guides, angels, channeling, tarot cards, psychic predictions, psychic calls, and those things are going to be categorized for now. I would advise to, for the first stages of your journey, avoid those things. And there's a few reasons why. Okay, if you imagine the different planes of existence, so you have 3D, 4D, 5, and so on, and then within those you have different subplanes. What most channelers and tarot card readers and psychics are doing is they're tapping into the fourth dimension, so astral realm. And it's, for example, with spirit guides and angels, when you say you're trying to connect with them, trying to connect with them yourself is better than using a channel, because if you connect with them yourself, it's more of a pure channel, because you don't know how these channelers are influenced or what they're channeling, what you know, how many of their own beliefs they're projecting into the channeled message, and so on. Better to do it yourself, so that's good. But I would still advise against it for now, because you don't really know like what you're connecting with in the fourth dimension, especially if you're a beginner and you're very new to this. It's incredibly easy to manipulate and mislead somebody in the fourth dimension. And when you really think about what you're doing, it's kind of obvious, but imagine just being born in the third dimension. You're so vulnerable and susceptible to manipulation that you're completely helpless. Okay, so you're just crawling around, you can't even walk basically. Anybody could do anything and you would have no defense mechanism. You wouldn't have built up your defense mechanisms and your street smarts and your common sense and your, do you see what I mean? And so it's the same thing when you enter the fourth dimension, especially if you haven't mastered things like lucid dreaming, if you're new to astral projection, if you haven't manifested a big chunk of your dream life, like what you actually want to create, and if you haven't been able to do these things yet, to try and connect with your spirit guides is quite risky, because you're in that same situation where you're almost like a baby, completely vulnerable and open to manipulation in the fourth dimension. So although it might seem like your spirit guides are giving you a certain message, and in some cases they are, and it's a good message, the fact is you simply don't know for sure whether it's good or bad message, and whether it's in your highest good or not. Because without going too much into the conspiratorial side of things, a lot of you might already know that there is a spiritual kind of warfare going on. And maybe warfare is the wrong word. There's a spiritual shifting and catalyst type of energy going on, where people are being pulled in two opposite directions, spiritually and energetically. So there's a lot of focus on trying to mislead, manipulate, and tear down people like us. You know, people trying to raise their vibes, light workers, spiritual minded people. There's a lot of focus on trying to bring us down. So going back to the most obvious stuff, the most obvious point here is you don't really need, at the moment at least, to connect with these entities. They can be good and beneficial, but for 90% of people when you're beginning, it's far better to just use your inner knowledge and connect with your inner self, instead of using an external force as like a savior. And you see this a lot. There's a lot of focus in today's world on projecting everything out to an external savior, so that you don't have to do anything. You can just connect with your spirit guides, or you can just get a reading, or some figure, whether it's political or spiritual, will save the day, which is really just a distraction from connecting with our inner self and realizing that we have always had the power individually ourselves. And that's what a lot of this program is focused on, is actually helping you find that power within yourself. So for the moment, I would actually advise against that, and maybe we'll get into it later. But for now, I would advise against that sort of thing, or at the very least, use it as one perspective. Okay, so let's say if you want to know, let me think of an example. Let's say you want to know roughly where you're going to be in a year's time. So you would use channeled messages, spirit guides, maybe psychic calls and tarot cards and things like that as one potential timeline perspective. You would use them as one data point. And then you would also look at, you know, where am I heading in life? How do I feel? What are my friends doing? And that sort of thing. Instead of what a lot of people do, is they make the mistake of getting a tarot reading or getting a psychic reading, and they go 100% all in on that. They believe it with, you know, their whole body and being. And the danger with that is, if that message was channeled from an entity that didn't have your best interest at heart, if that message was in any way distorted or changed by the projected beliefs of the channeler, by your mindset, by your energetic state that day, or more likely just by an entity in the fourth dimension who was trying to attack you, then by believing that message very strongly, you actually help to create it. And this is something we'll get onto in a lot of detail later on. But the things you actually believe subconsciously, you help to create. And I'm sure you know this already, but I promise you we will get into this in incredible detail. So your beliefs literally shape the reality at the holographic level. When you believe something, it's kind of very simple but also very complex, but you literally create that thing. So if you take a message from a spirit guide, let's say, or a tarot reading, and you 100% believe that message, you create that reality. Now that's great if it's a good message, but if it's a bad message, or if it's going to lead you off your path and then you help to create that, obviously that's not good. So I'll use an example. Let's say if it was your purpose or destiny, let's say, to go to a certain place and meet a certain person, which would then lead to this and this, and like the butterfly effect, you know. One small thing led to a chain of events that led to further down your purpose. If you take a spirit guide or a tarot reading and you believe it 100%, and then that reading says, don't go to this place, for example, or don't travel now, that could lead you away from your purpose, especially if you believe it. Do you see? Whereas if your intuition and your inner self, which is really the more accurate way of getting messages, if your intuition and your whole being and soul is saying, I need to go to this place, that is far more likely to be accurate than a random tarot reading channeled by who knows who, and you don't know who they're channeling or what they're channeling or what the intentions of what they're channeling is, or if it's even accurate at all. Because what a lot of these channels and tarot readers are doing is they're simply taking advantage in many cases of getting views on YouTube for that type of content. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody, because there are channelers out there are tarot readers out there who do have a gift and who can connect to these energies. But my point I'm making here is you simply have no way of telling whether the channeled message you're getting is accurate or not, or whether the person you're getting the message from can channel or not. So you really have to rely mainly on your intuition and your inner knowing, which I know sounds kind of weird because it's our human nature to want to have some kind of proof or something we can point to and say, no, it's, you know, this person said this, or this data said this. But your intuition is really powerful, and as you develop it, it will get more and more powerful and more accurate as time goes on. So that, Jesse, is, in my opinion, what I would advise for now.